One cold February morning, Sherlock Holmes and I were sitting by the fire in our Baker Street rooms when a strange visitor was shown in. He was a tall, proud man, dressed in fine clothes, but his face was pale and lined with worry. "My name is Alexander Holder," he said, lowering himself into a chair. "I am a banker, sir, and I have come to you because I am in terrible trouble. Trouble that may ruin both my business and my family's honor." Holmes nodded. "You have come to the right place, Mr. Holder. Tell us everything, slowly and exactly." Mr. Holder explained that his bank was one of the oldest and most respected in London. A few days earlier, a nobleman, whose name he begged us not to mention, had come to him for a huge loan of £50,000. As security for the loan, the nobleman brought an object of great value, the Beryl Coronet, a golden crown set with 39 priceless Beryl gems, one of the national treasures of England. "He told me," said Holder, "that I must keep the coronet safe and untouched until he returned with the money. I locked it in my private desk and took the key home with me. I thought it safest there." Holmes raised an eyebrow. "You took a national treasure home? Interesting." Holder nodded miserably. "Yes. I live in Streatham with my son Arthur and my niece Mary. That evening I showed them both the coronet." Arthur was silent, but Mary exclaimed at its beauty. "I then locked it in my study, placed the key in my pocket, and went to bed. About midnight," Holder continued, "I was awakened by a soft noise, metal scraping against metal. I leapt from my bed, ran to the study, and found my son Arthur standing by the window, the coronet in his hands." Holmes leaned forward. "Go on." "The coronet was bent, 3 beryls were missing, and Arthur's face was white as chalk. I shouted, 'You villain, what have you done?' He dropped the coronet and stood silent. I begged him to explain, but he said only, 'It's better that I say nothing.' I locked him in his room and searched everywhere for the missing gems, but they were gone. I cannot believe my son is a thief. But what else can I think?" Holder's voice broke, and he covered his face with his hands. Holmes's eyes were bright. "You have done right to come to me. There is a mystery here deeper than you think." Within the hour we were on our way to Mr. Holder's house, a fine villa surrounded by snow-covered gardens. Inside, everything was in perfect order except for the household itself, silent, strained, and full of fear. Holder showed us the coronet. Its delicate gold band was twisted, 3 sockets empty where the jewels had been wrenched out. Holmes handled it carefully, turning it in the light. "Who else sleeps in this part of the house?" he asked. "My niece Mary has the room next to mine. My son's room is farther down the hall." "And the servants?" "They sleep on the upper floor." Holmes examined the window through which Arthur had apparently tried to escape. The shutters were closed, but there were muddy footprints on the floor. He bent down and studied them. "These prints are peculiar," he murmured. "One set from heavy boots. Your son's, I presume, and another faint mark beside them, smaller and lighter. Tell me, Mr. Holder, is your niece engaged to anyone?" Holder looked surprised. "She was until recently. Her fiancé was Sir George Burnwell." Holmes's face darkened. "Sir George Burnwell, the same man who was once expelled from the guards for cheating at cards?" "The very same," said Holder quietly. "I begged her to break it off, and she did, or so I believed." Holmes next asked to see Arthur. The young man came in proudly, his head high though his eyes were weary. "Mr. Holmes," he said, "I will not defend myself. I alone am to blame." "Then you did take the coronet?" Holmes asked. Arthur hesitated. "I took it, yes, but not for the reason you think. I cannot say more." Holmes studied him carefully. "You protect someone else," he said softly. Arthur said nothing, but his face flushed. Later, when we asked to see Miss Mary, the housekeeper told us she had gone out early that morning and had not returned. Mr. Holder grew even paler. "She never leaves the house without telling me," he said. "Where can she be?" Holmes looked thoughtful. "I believe, Mr. Holder, that when we find Miss Mary, we shall find the missing jewels." Outside, the garden was white and still. Holmes walked slowly around the house, studying the snow. Soon he stopped and pointed. "Here are two sets of tracks, one large, one small. They come from the path by the gate, stop at this window, then turn back the way they came. See how the smaller feet step in the larger man's tracks going away? That means they left together. The small feet belong to a woman, Miss Mary no doubt, and the large ones to a man." "Sir George Burnwell!" I exclaimed. "Exactly," said Holmes. "He was her lover still, and she must have let him in through the window." We followed the footprints to the road, where the snow had been trampled by wheels. Holmes stopped again and studied the mud. "A cab waited here," he said, "and it drove toward London." We spent the rest of the afternoon following leads through the city. Holmes visited several jewelers, describing the missing Beryls. At the fourth shop, a clerk remembered that very morning a gentleman with dark, handsome features had tried to sell 3 green gems of unusual size. The man had said they were from his mother's necklace. "Did he give his name?" Holmes asked. "Yes, sir. Sir George Burnwell." That evening we returned to Baker Street. Holmes sent a message to the police and another to Mr. Holder. By nightfall, Sir George was arrested in a gambling house, and Miss Mary was found hiding at a friend's apartment. The next morning, Mr. Holder, pale but hopeful, came to our rooms. Holmes greeted him gravely. "Your son, sir, is innocent," he said. "The thief was Sir George Burnwell, aided unwillingly by your niece." Mr. Holder gasped. "Mary, impossible." Holmes shook his head. "Listen and you will understand. Miss Mary loved Sir George despite your warnings. That night, after you showed her the coronet, she told him about it. He persuaded her to let him borrow it, promising to return it before morning and use it only to raise money for a short time. When she unlocked your study and passed it through the window, your son Arthur, who had overheard their plan, ran in, seized the coronet, and tried to stop the crime. In the struggle it was bent, and Sir George tore it from his grasp and fled. Arthur said nothing because he wished to shield his cousin's name." Mr. Holder covered his face with his hands. "My poor boy, my poor girl." Holmes went on gently. "Sir George broke off 3 gems to sell, but we have recovered them. The coronet will be returned, repaired, and the nobleman's loan will be safe. And my son? He is free, and deserves your forgiveness." Mr. Holder stood, his eyes full of tears. "You have saved my honor, Mr. Holmes. How can I thank you?" Holmes smiled faintly. "By being kinder to those who love you, sir. That will be thanks enough." When the banker had gone, Holmes sat back, lighting his pipe. "It is a sad case, Watson," he said quietly. "One cannot help but pity the girl. Her love blinded her to the truth about that scoundrel Burnwell." "And young Arthur?" I asked. His silence was noble, though it cost him dearly. He'll come through it stronger. He looked into the fire. You see, Watson, crime is not always born of greed or hatred. Sometimes it springs from love, and love can be just as dangerous. Outside, the snow began to fall again, soft and silent over London. The case of the Beryl coronet was closed, but the memory of that night stayed with me. The glint of gold, the missing gems, and the courage of a son who chose to suffer rather than betray someone he cared for.